Yesterday we spoke about the coins. Let's go on to Perek Lamed Aleph Pasuk Beis, page 488. Okay, so now the first thing is Moshe calls towards the bottom of the page, just a very quick point here, that Moshe Rabbeinu, they're going to build the Mishkan. So Hashem says to Moshe, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, bottom of page 488. The bottom page, 3 lines from the bottom. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, Re'ei, look, Karasi v'shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur lemata Yehuda. I have called upon Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Chur from the tribe of Yehuda. Va'amale yosa ruach Elokim, I filled him with the Spirit of God. B'chochmo v'svuna v'das v'chol malacha. With wisdom, understanding, das, knowledge, in all manners of work. Lachashov machashavos, to think, literally means to think thoughts. Art School translated it as to weave designs. Now that's a good translation. That's a good job. I would never have come up with that, because literally lachashov machashavos means to think thoughts. Lachashov machashavos, to weave designs. I mean, Art School was basing it on Rashi, but that's what the words literally mean, to weave designs. Lasos v'zahavu v'chesef v'nechoshes. Now, you have over here, very interesting, they're going to build the Mishkan. You need a designer. So in our day and age, when anybody's going to design anything, what do they have to do? You have to go to school. You have to learn design. You have to learn fashion design, and you have to learn weaving, and you have to learn sculpting, and you have to go spend years in school and get trained, and they have special art schools, right? They have special, everything special, construction schools. Betzalel is 13 years old at this point. So I'll just finish his bar mitzvah. All he knows how to do is to lane. He's 13 years old, has never been to school, has never done anything. Where does he get this skill from? So it says, the Medrash says he's 13 years old. The Betzalel is 13 years old. And he's, it says, the last words say, V'amale yoso ruach Elokim, fill him with the Spirit of God. In other words, the only reason Betzalel was able to do it is because he was divinely inspired to do it. So sometimes, people are born with natural gifts, natural talents. He's got a natural talent, he's got natural gifts, he's divinely inspired, number one. Number two, you'll see that there's no coincidence. Look who his grandfather is. He is Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Chur. Now, does anybody remember who Chur was? He was the one who stood with Moshe Rabbeinu on the mountain. And what else? He's Miriam's son. And what else is significant about Chur? Chur was the one who stood up against the people at the golden calf, and they killed him. They killed Chur. So I remember we said this is out of order. This is after the response to the golden calf. Therefore, it's only right that his grandson should come along, and he should become the one to build the Mishkan. As an atonement, part of the atonement for the Chet HaEgel is also the fact that they killed Chur, right? Which is why we'll see that Aaron doesn't give up his life. I mean, Jews through history have always given up their lives not to sin. Aaron wouldn't have any more trouble than anybody else, but he realized that if they kill him, they're just going to go on anyway. So he was trying to damage control so that wouldn't happen. So he is the one who's chosen to build the Mishkan. Now, you'll notice that it says Vishamru b'nei Yisrael Hashabbos, Lasos is Hashabbos Adoros Bris Olam. What has that got to do? Sorry. That's on the next page. They finished the Mishkan over here. They finished describing how they're going to build the Mishkan, and then on about 490, about 7 lines from the bottom. 7 lines from the bottom. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor v'ata daber el b'nei Yisrael Lemor achas shabsosai tishmoru. Make sure you keep my Shabbos ki osi beinu v'nechem d'orosechem l'das ki ani Hashem mekadishchem. So you got the command of Shabbos. The command of Shabbos appears 12 times in the Torah. Frequency is often an indication of importance. Right? The Shabbos is mentioned 12 times. That means Shabbos is pretty important. So the question here is, well, Shabbos is mentioned. Why is it mentioned now? Why is Shabbos mentioned now?
You just talked about building something for God.
Right.
Therefore, you should sanctify what you build.
Close.
Because you're not allowed to work on the Sabbath.
Yes.
Specifically with regards to the temple and I assume Mishkan.
Very good. In other words, you could easily think, well, we're doing something important now. So Torah comes along and says to you, Shabbos is more important. All right, that's a very important lesson for us. Shabbos is more important. Don't desecrate Shabbos. No matter how holy your motivation or the holy project you're involved in, unless it's life-threatening. For a life-threatening situation, you're allowed to desecrate Shabbos. A woman who has to give birth, you don't have to tell her, just hang on, baby. We're making Havdalah soon. You're allowed to take her to the hospital, and you could drive her. That's what you do any of her needs. Don't mess us over now, woman. It doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, at the end of Yom Kippur, hospitals on Yom Kippur, and it's more on the end of Yom Kippur, maternity wards are full because fasting brings on contractions. For a woman who's in her 9th month, often Motzei Yom Kippur, people have babies. People have babies on Yom Kippur. My wife had a baby on Rosh Hashanah. So if you have to go, you got to go to the hospital. That's going to do it for you. So that you do that does supersede Shabbos, and you're allowed to desecrate. I'll get to you one second. You're allowed to desecrate Shabbos in order to save a life, but not to build the Mishkan. Now the extension of this is that one of the mistakes made by the conservative movement in America, when the conservative movement first started, the people who founded the conservative movement in America were for the most part, Orthodox. And what they did was they decided that, look, for the good of Judaism, we're going to have to allow people to drive to Shul on Shabbos so that they could stay attached to Judaism, but come to Shul. They're not going to walk. They live too far, live in the suburbs. So let them drive to Shul on Shabbos. That was a vital mistake. You don't drive to Shul on Shabbos. If you're ever at home or you're ever in a community and it's even Yom Kippur, better stay home all day Yom Kippur than drive to Shul. You don't drive to Shul because Shabbos takes precedence over all other forms of service. So it's ridiculous to desecrate Shabbos for the sake to violate God's word for the sake of serving God. Doesn't make any sense. We don't do that in Judaism, and therefore any movement that has compromised on halacha for the sake of Judaism has never worked out. It's never worked out, and that's what the Torah is teaching you over here. Somebody had a question. Go ahead.
When one is desecrating Shabbos for the sake of saving someone's life, how far is he allowed to? For example, if he's an ambulance driver, can he turn on the air conditioner? Good question. These are very, very tricky halachas. One of the rules is, for example, if you could signal by sticking your arm out the window, so why hit the blinker? So the rule is certainly to hold it to a minimum, unless it's absolutely to hold it to a minimum, but not to the point where it endangers you or somebody else. If you're driving, you have any doubt at all whether anybody's going to see your hand, flip on your blinker, right? You could try to flip it on with your elbow, so it's only rabbinic law as opposed to Torah law because you're not doing it in a normal way. But again, no acrobatics if it's gonna mean endangering anybody. If you're sitting there, trying to elbow the thing, and you're trying to drive with one hand, no acrobatics. So it's a very tricky thing. The air conditioner you can't turn on. That's not part of the need, unless it could be if a woman who's in labor or a patient in an ambulance needs air. Then certainly you could turn it on. These are very, very important questions because these are all these, what we do is you try to hold it to a minimum. One interesting halacha is an ambulance driver could drive back to where he came from because the ambulance is needed there. People know there's an ambulance there and they're expecting the ambulance like a Hatzalah guy. So once you drop them off, you are allowed to drive back there. Here's even an interesting question, how do you stop the car in front of the hospital? So it used to be that when they have the stick shifts, the clutch, stick shift car. So they always said, just take your foot off the gas pedal. Take your feet off the pedals, and the car is going to die by itself, right? So you do minimize it as much as possible. On the other hand, you have to be very careful not to endanger yourself or others. These are halachas. There have been books that have been written with all the instructions of what to do for in Shabbos situations. Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't sacrificing on the Shabbos serving God?
Right. Right. That's why the sacrifices are specifically mandated by the Torah. That's specifically mandated. Whereas you're not allowed to normally shecht an animal, there are the two offerings that are brought on Shabbos. Very good. So anything that the Torah itself mandates is because it's the same. I always use chess as an example. You're not allowed to jump over other pieces on a chessboard, but a knight could, because the one who made the rules said that this is one of the rules. So the same God who says don't desecrate Shabbos is the same God that says but bring the sacrifices on Shabbos. Right? The same God that says don't be cruel to animals is the same God that says push a goat off a cliff on Yom Kippur. right? It's the same. He made the rules. He made the rules. Those are the exceptions. Those are the exceptions to the rule. You're not allowed to marry if a man dies. His brother can't marry his wife, except if they dies childless. Not only he could marry her, it's a mitzvah to marry her by Torah law, right? Yibum, so it's the same God who made the rules. So he's the same God that makes the exceptions. That's rule. You're not allowed to speak bad about other people, but if it's for a beneficial purpose, you are allowed to speak bad about other people. If it has to be spoken bad because of beneficial purpose, however halacha defines beneficial purpose, if you have to do that, you have to do that. Those are the rules. So here the Torah is telling you, the Torah is emphasizing, the Mishkan's important. Nothing, what could be holier than building the tabernacle? One thing, Shabbos. Don't desecrate Shabbos. Okay. Now, take a look at page 492. Remarkable idea here. Then we start with Moshe Rabbeinu receiving the 2 tablets of stone. Vayiten al Moshe kechalosa ledaber ito behar Sinai shnei luchos ha'idus. God gives Moshe Rabbeinu the 2 luchos of testimony, the 2 stones. Luchos Evan, they were tablets of stone. I never liked the word tablets. How does he? Is that what you call it? I mean, I call them 2 blocks. I like the word blocks, a luach, but I guess that's what they're always translate. 2 tablets. He gave 2 tablets of stone. Ksuvim be'etzva Elokim. Moshe Rabbeinu is up on the mountain. Then God gives Moshe Rabbeinu the luchos. Now, these luchos that God gives Moshe Rabbeinu, what's remarkable about the first ones, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up on the mountain, he finds the luchos. The luchos were put there by God, carved by God, made by God, and they serve as a physical reminder. It's the only physical reminder that man has that there's a God. An actual physical reminder. God put the tablets out. Where they come from? Out of clear blue. You got a physical reminder of God having written the Torah. After the incident of the golden calf, where Moshe Rabbeinu smashes these 2 luchos, he throws these 2 luchos down, then he produces the second luchos. He brings the stone, and the stone gets carved. We lose that physical reminder, which we'll see is a part of a punishment because we wanted a physical reminder, we wanted the golden calf. So you lose the physical reminder that you had of the presence of God. But that's what Moshe Rabbeinu gives them. He gives them these 2 luchos. Now, what is the idea of the 2 tablets of stone? What is the idea of 2 tablets? There are several ideas contained in the 2 tablets being carved in stone, right? Carved in stone, which I have no doubt that the expression today comes from here, where it says they were carved in stone. Like most of the expressions we have. What's that? They are irreplaceable, and Moshe Rabbeinu is eventually going to break them because of the sin of the golden calf. Now, take a look again. I've shown you this once before. Just look back for a moment. Get all the way to the first word in the big blue book. Look all the way to the first word, the word Bereshis. Look at the word Bereshis on page 2. So it says Bereshis. Now you'll notice, look at the 2 first letters. What do you have? A Beis and a Resh, right? Look at the 2 last letters. You have a Yud and a Tuf. So those 4 letters together spell the word bris, which is a covenant. Right? Do you see where I am? Beis Resh are the first 2 letters. A Yud Tuf are the last letter. That spells bris. And the middle 2 letters, Aleph Shin, spell Eish, which is fire. That means the Torah is a covenant of fire. So the Torah existed before the world was created. The Torah existed. You ever hear the idea that it exists as a black fire on a white fire? Which means it's some sort of spiritual, probably the most intangible, what's the word? I don't like to use the word spiritual, the most intangible energy that we have on earth is fire. Fire always represents something spiritual, burns like a fire, the evil inclination is like a fire. So you have over here, the Torah is referred to as a covenant of fire. God takes this covenant of fire, this bris eish, and he puts it into a physical body. What's the physical body? The luchos, the 2 tablets of stone. What's the connection between the 2 tablets of stone and the fire?
They will always be with you, and they will always let you.
Oh, that we'll see in a second. Good. That we'll see. But what's the connection to fire? What's the connection to fire? If you take stone and you bang, where do you get fire from? You bang 2 stones together, right? That produces fire. That's how you produce fire. So the 2 tablets, number 1, are a reminder of the fire essence of Torah. Not only that, the evil inclination is compared to a fire. Did you ever hear that idea? The Yetzer Hara is compared to a fire. And the only way, there's an expression, to fight fire with fire. The only way we could control the evil inclination is by learning Torah. The only neutralizing tool that we have for the evil inclination is Torah. You can't do it. There is no other medicine to take. There's the only thing you could neutralize. I mean, you must have seen sometime on TV where the good guy is injected with something and he's only got, 24 hours to live, and the bad guy knows the antidote and he's hiding till they find him at the last minute. They get the antidote and they inject him and everybody lives happily ever after. But except the bad guy, they throw him to alligators. But the good guy, everybody lives happily ever after. The antidote for the Yetzer Hara, the antidote for the evil inclination is fire. And the only fire that we have, which is an antidote, serves as an antidote, is the evil, is Torah. Now, that's number one. So idea number one behind the luchos is that they represent fire. The luchos themselves represent fire. Idea number two is that, the story with Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara says that Rabbi Akiva was once walking, and Rabbi Akiva was an ignorant shepherd, and he saw a stone, he saw a rock, and he saw drops of water dripping onto the rock, and he saw that the water had penetrated, that there was actually there was a hole and a crevice in the rock. And Rabbi Akiva thought, well, if water, which is soft, could penetrate a stone, which is hard, then Torah, which is a fire, could certainly penetrate my heart, which is flesh and blood. And that's what Rabbi Akiva gave him the motivation, and he decided to study Torah to become a great Rabbi Akiva. Now, I want you to realize something. If you take a look at a stone that's got drops of water dripping on it, you never wonder, I'm watching there for 10 minutes and I don't see anything happening to the stone. Now, at some point, something happened. How did it happen? My drop of water, I got the unlucky drops of water. When I'm there, nothing, the stone looks the same. But somehow with drip, 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 the water has penetrated the stone, right? Now, not only that, the idea is like this. The idea is like this. Do you ever see rounded stairs anywhere? You see an old building where the stairs are rounded. How did the stairs become rounded? Because so many feet have gone over the stairs. They rounded the stairs. I don't understand. I stepped on the stair. I even rubbed it. Nothing happened to it. I rubbed it harder than the person steps on it. Nothing happened to it. So how did they ever get rounded? The answer is obviously that every time a drop of water hits a stone, every foot that goes over the stair, some micro particle, however micro it is being removed. And it's only with the acute, it's obviously imperceptible to the human eye, and it's only with the passage of time that you start seeing the effect. If the drops of water are dripping into the stone, not only something happens on each drop, something must have happened on the first drop. You know how I know that? Because otherwise the second drop would be the first drop. If nothing happened on the first drop, so then the second drop would be the first drop and nothing would happen there either. At some point, something has to start happening. That means every drop is having an effect. Torah is compared to water. Every drop of Torah that we drink in, every drop of Torah that we learn is having an effect on our neshama. It may be imperceptible, and often it is, and one of the mistakes people make is they check from one day to the next to see if they've changed. You can't see it, but check 6 months down the line. Check 3 months down the line, and you'll see that the Torah has had an effect on you. So what the Torah is teaching you over here is that the same way that even if our hearts are stone, like the luchos, the Torah could penetrate our hearts, and our hearts aren't stone. Our hearts are flesh and blood. Our hearts are what do you call? They're meat. Our hearts are flesh. The Torah, if it could penetrate stone, and that's the luchos, the idea that the luchos represent Torah, that Torah could penetrate even a heart of stone, like Rabbi Akiva's heart was penetrated, watching what the water did to the stone. That's the idea. Idea number 3 is that the Gemara says, one of the ways of mastering Torah is not like any other subject. Torah is not like any other subject. The Gemara says, it's difficult to acquire Torah like gold, and it could be easily lost like glass. What that means is like this. Do you ever notice, think of a book that you once read. In high school, maybe you read one of those important books they had us read in high school, like Lord of the Flies or To Kill a Mockingbird, or any of those birds that we read. What was the worst book we read by far? We had to read Crime and Punishment, which if ever a book was appropriately named, that was it. I don't know what crime I did to deserve such punishment, but that was absolutely. You liked it?
Yeah, I love
You love Dostoevsky. Yeah, well, I had a lot of trouble with Dostoevsky because my baseball glove was waiting for me, so I didn't have a lot of time for Dostoevsky. And we had to read, it was absolutely torture. You know, they always told us, don't use the Cliff's Notes. They said, don't use the Cliff's Notes, it won't help you on the test. So it helped. I'm here, aren't I? I am living proof. I always wanted to meet Mr. Cliff, by the way, just to thank him. You know, he got me through my English classes in high school. My other classes was a guy named Ricky, but the English classes was Mr. Cliff. So you know, you think of a book that you read. How many times did you read a book? Once, maybe twice. Can you remember most of the book? I still remember books I read. I read Lord of the Flies in part book, part Cliff's Notes, part movie. But we actually had. You want to hear how Hashem loves the righteous? The night before the Lord of the final, they showed on TV late at night at about 1:30 at night. They had the old Lord of the Flies movie. It was the first. I told the guys the first time in my life I ever pulled an all-nighter studying for a test. Yeah, I said I watched the movie. You know, I did well on the test. You know, so you know, and you remember it. You read it once and you remember it. Torah, you learn Torah. You learn something. If I would ask you, what did you learn in the Gemara 2 days ago? Oh, gee, no. Let's see, something about a slave. No, that was last Zman and the other Masechta. You know, I don't even know what. Because Torah is easily forgotten. There's only one way to remember Torah. You got to constantly review it. Constant review. It's not like any other subject. It's not like any other subject. You got to review it and review it and review it. So the Gemara says the only way to master Torah is if you turn your cheeks to stone and you don't tire of reviewing Torah. You just keep going over it and over and over, like your cheeks are made out of stone. They never wear out of constantly reviewing Torah. The more you review it, the more you absorb it into your system. Do you know that the Talmud says that if you have two students, one reviews his lesson 101 times, and one reviews his lesson 100 times. You can't compare them. There's no comparison between the two. I want to tell you something. If you review your girl, let's say take a page of Gemara, and you review it 101 times, and I review it 100 times. We both took a test on that page of the Gemara. We would both know it pretty well. I don't believe that the extra time would really show up on the test results. You did it 101 times, I did it 100 times. Once you're over about 40 or 50, you're doing pretty well. So why does the Gemara say that there's no comparison between the two? No comparison. The guy studies 101 times, the guy studies 100, reviews 100 times. There's no comparison. Anybody got an idea? Why is there no comparison? Not the Gemara says, well, he's a little better. He's 100th better than him. The Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says there's no comparison between the two. Why not?
It's not necessarily the physical knowledge, but the spiritual knowledge of it.
You're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Moving in the right direction.
The time that he took to study that one more time made, like he used that time.
He used it. Okay, you're moving, getting even closer.
Act of doing it.
The act of doing it. Well, all three of you are pretty close. Right? You're moving in the right direction. You see, the number 100 always represents completion. When you played hide and seek, you didn't say, let's count to 73. You said, let's count to 100. Right? You didn't say, let's count to 101. You said, count to 100. 100 is a unit of completion. If you review it 100 times, your attitude is showing it's an attitude of, I'm done, completed, finished with it, let's go on to the next thing. 101 times means you're beginning the next cycle of 100. 101 means I'm showing the attitude I've never finished. And the attitude towards Torah is you're never finished reviewing it. You have to review it and review it and review it and review it. The only way to cement it in. It's not like any other subject. From the moment Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets, in other words, before Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets, Torah would have been easily remembered, easily retained, and it wouldn't be difficult to study Torah. We would get up, we'd study Torah like a guy watching sports on TV. It would be fun, it would be enjoyable, and we retain everything, it would be terrific, right? When Moshe broke the luchos, Moshe broke the tablets, forgetfulness descended on the world. Or forget the Torah. I don't remember what I learned yesterday. I don't remember. Half the time you open up the book, where was I? Let's see. You spent 10 minutes just trying to find where you were. You don't remember where you were. It's difficult to learn Torah. It takes a certain amount of self-sacrifice to learn Torah. That all came with the second luchos. Okay, when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first luchos, then there's a decree, a divine decree that Torah can easily be forgotten. You know why? Because if it wouldn't be forgotten, we would learn Torah, then go on and get involved in all sorts of mischief. And therefore God says, you know what? You want to learn Torah? You're going to have to spend time on Torah. And Torah, by the nature of Torah is that it's easily forgotten. So the third idea here is that if you want to maintain Torah, you want to learn Torah, you have to make your jaws hard, your cheeks hard, like stone, to constantly review Torah. Number 4, Number 4, did you ever hear the idea that the evil inclination is compared to a stone? The Yetzer Hara, the Gemara says, is compared to a stone. And the only way we can melt that stone is with Torah. So the luchos are made of stone to teach us, to emphasize that if you want to control the evil inclination, there's only one antidote, which I mentioned earlier. That's Torah. It's the only way to balance, offset the evil inclination is by filling one's mind with Torah. That is and we know that because the one who created the disease created the cure. If there's a disease, some doctor comes up, some scientist comes up with a bacteria that infects people. You could try anything in the world, you're never going to find a cure for it unless you use the antidote that doctor produced in order to cure the disease. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the evil inclination, and he created one cure for the inclination. There's only one way to control it. That's a person has to be immersed in Torah. As I think I've mentioned several times in the past, how do you explain the fact that my son goes to a yeshiva where there are 700 boys in the yeshiva between the ages of 18 and 22, 700 males between the ages of 18 and 22, and not once in 4 years has there been a fist fight? How can you explain such a thing? I mean, let's substitute now. Let's say it wasn't from yeshiva boys. Let's say it was Irishmen. Okay? Let's say it was Italians, right? 700 Italians between the ages of 18 and 22 in 4 years, right? Let's say it was 700 Irishmen. 700 anyone. How many fist fights would you expect to see?
700.
Right? I'd say a couple a day, right? How do you explain that? How do you explain it? Find me an institution anywhere where there hasn't been a fist fight, a high school, a college, anywhere where there hasn't been a fist fight. 700 males between the ages of 18 and not one fist fight in 4 years? There's only one way to explain that. That means that there's something is happening to them that has a calming effect. I'm using calming is instead of some other word, for lack of a better word. There's a calming effect on the person. There's a disciplinary effect on the person. That's Torah. And the Torah reduces that Yetzer Hara in all ways, doing mitzvahs, eating kosher. Everything we do is a recipe for affecting the soul and raising the soul to a higher level. You know, there was a guy in the Lakewood Yeshiva on Purim. It happened on Purim in Lakewood. There was a non-Jewish janitor who was in the yeshiva working there for years in the Lakewood Yeshiva. He said it's an amazing thing. Every Purim in Lakewood, there are hundreds of yeshiva boys who are wandering the streets drunk. A few blocks away, there's a seminary with hundreds of girls. He said in all his years in the yeshiva, he's never once seen an inappropriate incident between the boys and the girls. He said, if it was me and my buddies, we'd be arrested by morning. That's what the guy said. So where is that control coming from? And that's even when they're drunk. The answer is that the Torah is the cure for the Yetzer Hara. It doesn't mean we're perfect. We're not perfect. We have our flaws and we have our misbehavior. And the Torah itself says don't murder because that means we are capable of murdering. And we have incidents of, it could be either immorality or it could be theft or it could be embezzling. You know, just because a person walks around with a yarmulke and a beard doesn't mean that doesn't make him righteous. But we have the antidote. The antidote is the Torah. That's the idea. The last idea is what you mentioned earlier, that the luchos are carved in stone to teach us the Torah is permanent and unchanging. The Torah is never going to change. The Torah is always going to be permanent. The Torah is unchanging, and therefore it's carved in stone. We can't tamper with the Torah. We have to learn the Torah, and we have to apply the Torah. Yeah.
Hearing from someone that after Mashiach comes, we'll get another Torah or something.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. That there'll be another.
Some religious told me that.
Yeah. No. I've heard there is such a statement, but it's a Kabbalistic statement. I don't know exactly what that means, what it's referring to, what it means another Torah. I don't know. One thing is clear: Torah is not going to change. So what it means another Torah could be there's going to be another spin on it, or different ideas. I don't. In other words, the statement is there. I don't know what the statement is referring to. Don't know. What's that? The sequel. Yeah, the sequel.
This goddess.
Yeah. So I don't know I don't know exactly what that's referring to. Okay, so that's the idea of the luchos. Now take a look at the next pasuk, last one on page 492. Vayarha kivoshe Moshe l'redes minahar. The people saw that Moshe was delayed in coming down from the mountain, And Vayikohel ha'om al Aaron, they gathered on Aaron. Vayomer elov, kum aseh lanu Elohim, make a, we'll translate it as a god. Asher yelchu lefanenu, which will go before us. Ki zeh Moshe ha'ish asher elonu me'eretz Yisrael lo yadanu mehoyelo. We don't know what happened to Moshe. Now, before anything, let's understand what's going on here. First of all, do you know that there's a pasuk in Nach that says King Shaul was 1 year old when he took the reins? You ever heard that pasuk? Ben Shana Shaul b'molcho. Shaul was 1 year old when he took the reins.
Reins as in horses.
No, the reins of kingdom. The reins of kingdom. He was 1 year old when he took the reins of kingdom. Now, anybody, what's your reaction to that pasuk?
Isn't he also supposed to be the marathon fellow who earlier reported to Samuel? So wouldn't that make a wacky timeline?
And it's a little bit difficult to understand. I mean, before you get to a marathon fellow, or just any fellow, 1 year old, they're precocious kids, but 1 year old to be the king, well, it's interesting,
This happened. Mary Queen of Scots became queen when she was 3 months old.
Yeah, but he took the reins. He would b'molcho. Wasn't Mary Queen of Scots? Mary Queen of Scots wasn't running the country. Whoever Mary Queen of Scots was, if there was such a person. But King Shaul, did she got her chipped off?
Yeah, famous case.
Well, that's what happens. I don't know why, but it happened. So he's 1 year old. What does that mean? What does that mean? How can he be 1 year old when he took the reins? The answer is that the pasuk is incomprehensible unless we have an oral Torah. You have to have an oral tradition. Because if there's no oral tradition, that pasuk means nothing. He was 1 year old. You mean he had a bottle in his mouth while telling the army what to do? He had a pacifier. All right, guys, listen. I mean, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? The answer is we don't know what it means unless we have an oral Torah. Without an oral Torah, it's impossible. So the oral Torah tells us that when he took the reins, he was such a high level, he was as sinless as a 1 year old. Okay? Now, that being the case, you have to have an oral Torah when you're reading a section of Torah like this. The Jewish people just got out of Egypt. They saw 10 miracles. They saw the splitting of the sea. They're standing at Har Sinai. These people were not idiots. These people were not fools. They didn't go and put up a golden calf and say, "This created me." Would you do that? Would you do such a thing? Would I do such a thing? So these are people who are at such a high level. They say they had prophecy at the Red Sea. They had prophecy at Har Sinai. They're not about to put up a, "Hey guys, watch this. Hey, that's a great idea." And they put up so that before anything, when you approach this whole section of Torah, you can't, whatever else it is that's going on, that can't be what's going on. So the first thing that happens over here is it can't be that they put a piece of golden metal, which they just made, on a table and said, "You created me." That can't be, okay? Now, before anything, let's get the whole thing into proper perspective. Part of the problem here is Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm coming down in 40 days. Now, the people see him go up a mountain. He's got no food. He's got no supplies. He's got no nothing. And for 40 days and 40 nights, he did not eat up on the mountain. Now, all we see is the man walking up a mountain with no supplies, no food, no drink, no nothing. Moshe Rabbeinu was very precise on his time. He told Paro exactly when the plague of the firstborn is going to be. It's going to be right at midnight. And everything he did, he split the sea right then. He didn't say, "Okay, split." Darn, I hate when that happens. He said split, and the sea split as he did it. Moshe a very precise man. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "I'll be down in 40 days." And he's late. By their calculation, he's 6 hours late. 6 hours is a long time when you're out in the desert and you're alone. The leader who brought you out there has suddenly abandoned you. We saw him go up a mountain. He's never been wrong before. He's off by a few hours. What happened to the man other than the fact that he probably died? Because he went up a mountain without food or any supplies. That's the background for what's about to happen. We'll see you tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.